Hello everyone, my name is Wing, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about Brazilian soccer. Now, at the mention of Brazilian culture, nothing comes to mind quicker than three things: samba, carnival, and soccer. This is not without reason, considering how samba, the unrefuted national music, is the style that took roots in the early 20th century, and in the many evolutions and branch-offs have given us legends like Carmen Miranda, Chico Buarque, and Beth Carvalho, just to name a few. Then there's Carnival, the epic pre-Lenten celebration that every year draws hundreds of thousands of viewers to festivals all over Brazil, to cities like Rio de Janeiro, and the regions of Bahia, Pernambuco, and Minas Gerais, not to forget the millions that watch on TV from back at home. Last but not least is soccer, or as anyone else outside of the US calls it, football. Now, what may come as a surprise to some is that football, as I'll refer to from here on, is not always the symbolic national pastime it is today. The reality is that it took nearly 50 years to even catch on with the public since its introduction in 1885 by the Englishman Charles Miller. At that time, football was already established with professional teams, clubs, rules, and even a national team dating back to 1863. It should come as no surprise that upon its introduction to Brazil, it was exclusively played by rich boys in private country club type establishments, excluding the poor, generally darker skinned population that made up the majority of the country at the time. Combining the elitist attitudes of the rich and the exclusivity of the players, Brazil could not even muster together a national team, excluding the failed attempt in 1914 to merge two clubs from Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. It was not until 16 years later, in 1930, that Brazil would make its first appearance in the first ever World Cup championship. Now, despite the crushing defeat and elimination of Brazil in the early matches, the participation and consequent publicity in the TV and news finally brought the sport to the masses. While the discrimination against the poor and dark-skinned persisted even after football became known to the Brazilian common folk, the situation changed in 1933 when football was established as a professional sport. This move sparked the interest and hopes of boys everywhere, starting games in schools, streets, factories, and even beaches. But a large part of the success is drawn on a few key figures: Leonidas da Silva, Manuel Francisco dos Santos, otherwise known as Garrinchas, and Edison Arantes do Nascimento, or as the world better remembers, as Pele. Da Silva was born on September 6, 1913, in Rio de Janeiro, and earned a legacy through his record for first player in World Cup history to ever score 4 goals in a single match. There was also the nicknames the Black Diamond and the Rubber Man that he acquired for his exceptional skill, flexibility, and pioneering of the technique we know today as the bicycle kick. Manuel Francisco dos Santos, or simply Mané Garrinchas, was born on October 28, 1933, and was best known for his 11 years between 1955 to 1966 with the Brazilian national team when Brazil earned its first World Cup victory in 1958. Pele's name practically speaks for itself now, holding the title of the greatest player in the world, 3 World Cup wins, 1,280 career goals, second only to World Cup record holder Arthur Friedenreich with 1,329, and could be the very man attributable for bringing football to fame in the 70s. What gave these players their status and appeal to the youth of Brazil is not their legendary careers alone, but rather their histories. Dos Santos was born to an alcoholic father, resulting in birth defects like his crooked legs, which were also uneven in length, and like Pele in his childhood, played on dirt fields, a symbolic rise to fame that inspired many children to strive to break the chains of poverty. To date, millions of poor Brazilian children strive to make it big in football, no different than many African-American child in the poor neighborhoods of America playing basketball, all in hopes to rise from the slums, without being musicians or leading lives of crime. Were it not for the hopes and aspirations to succeed in life without the best education or becoming the next big chart-topping artist, many more Brazilian children would find themselves becoming part of the rising national statistic of crime, dealing in robbery, rape, murder, and drug trafficking. But without the negative mindset, we should know what makes football so iconic in Brazil. Just as the Tropicale movement of the mid-20th century was known for meshing of cultures and music types, Brazilian football has been acclaimed by many to take from the country's history of samba and transform the sport into an art. As many fans know, the players on the national team have for years astonished the world during the televised games with a unique type of footwork that much appears to be dancing. There's a trademark of speed, style, and agility, most notably seen with players like Leonidas da Silva and more recent names like Robson de Souza and Ronaldo de Assis Moreira, or as they are widely known as Robinho and Ronaldinho. However, there is something that amazes the world even more so than the fancy footwork and amazing skill in Brazilian football, and that is the waves that have been made in the world of diplomacy and peace. In 1969, the club Pele was playing for, Santos, traveled abroad to play in former Belgian Congo, a gesture that brought a temporary ceasefire between opposing forces in Kinshasa and Brazzaville when the fighters stopped to go watch the match. A similar incident occurred all but 5 years ago when Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva collaborated with Haiti's interim Prime Minister Gerard Latortue in arranging for a match between Haiti and Brazil's national teams. This act was intended to relieve the pressure of the long presence of Brazilian-led UN peacekeeping troops in Haiti, and as President Lula said, it was a symbol, a gesture, to show we want the world to live in peace, not war. As of today, there is talk that the two largest clubs in Brazilian football, Flamengo from Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo's Corinthians, will be participating in a friendly match hosted by the Palestinian Authority in efforts to bring unity and peace to the region. While the date of the match is yet to be released to the press, the facts stand about the timeless legacy of football in Brazil. From a sport created by the English, the Brazilians have once again, as they have done with music and art, taken the concept from another culture and nearly perfected it. From its backbone of undisputed players of humble origin to its sway in giving youth hope, all the way up to bringing peace to the world beyond Brazil's borders, we can see why football is so crucial to Brazil as it is to the world.